want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Well, it's finally here, folks. After almost 2 years of waiting for No Time to Die to hit screens, Eon and United Artists have finally released Daniel Craig's swan song as James Bond. Arguably the most ambitious James Bond film ever, with it boasting an A-list director, a buzzy screenplay whose writers include Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and a long-awaited score by none other than Hans Zimmer. Eon has pulled out all the stops for what's supposed to be Daniel Craig's last time in the role, hoping to leave fans in a better place than with the last film, The Divisive Spectre. Now, anyone who subscribes to Joe Blow videos can tell you that I'm a massive James Bond fan. We've been doing our show James Bond Revisited for over a year now, and indeed, the movie itself will get an installment, but only after everyone's had time to digest, and then we can go into some spoilers. In fact, I'll definitely want to see it a second time before I can really dig into it critically. But we're not going to do that here. So how is No Time to Die? Well, based on my first viewing, I have to say, it's pretty good. One of the issues a lot of us had with the Daniel Craig era of James Bond movies is their inconsistency, and by that logic, we were due a good James Bond film, and director Cary Joji Fukunaga has more than delivered. A James Bond epic that deliberately riffs on early James Bond films, particularly on Her Majesty's Secret Service, it's an appropriate and fitting way to close out the Daniel Craig era. In this one, Bond is briefly happy and settled with Lee Seydoux' Madeline Swan, until a plot by Blofeld and Spectre puts an end to his bliss and leaves him believing that he's been betrayed. This is the teaser, with the film picking up 5 years later. Bond is retired but approached by Jeffrey White's Felix Leiter to retrieve a kidnapped scientist who MI6 also wants. In fact, they want him so badly they send the new 007, Lashana Lynch's Nomi, to get him. They wind up engaging in some Spy Who Loved Me style one-upmanship until the real threat is revealed, Rami Malek's Safin, who's stolen a virus that was intended to work as a DNA sequenced way to assassinate high-value targets. Of course, now it's being designed as a weapon that could wipe out families and entire races of people. Of course, the chase after Safin puts Bond back in contact with Swan. Oh, but can he trust her? Now, overall, the storyline here is actually quite compelling. The fact that the MacGuffin is a virus may ruffle a few feathers and hit a little too close to home post-COVID-19, but who knew what we were looking at when this started filming in 2019? Daniel Craig seems more engaged than ever, looking fit and energized for what's going to be his final James Bond film. While Fukunaga doesn't skimp on action, Eon likely hired him for what he could do with the characterization, and the script, which he co-wrote with Neil Purvis, Robert Wade, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, is one of the better ones they've ever worked from. Bond has a clear motivation here, and there are some legitimate stakes that make this one of the most urgent James Bond films. It's not episodic like some of the other installments, and it builds up to a really strong climax, perhaps the strongest in the entire run of Daniel Craig James Bond films. Fukunaga also reintroduces some levity into the series, which I think was much lacking in previous installments. There's some solid quips and a sense of fun that we really haven't gotten since Casino Royale. The supporting cast is top shelf, with Malek an unsettling, if sparsely used villain. He definitely seems to be from the Donald Pleasance as Blofeld or the Joseph Wiseman as Dr. No school, with him not blinking throughout, being a complete sociopath, and, well, he seems ideally cast. Christoph Waltz is back as Blofeld, in perhaps an effort to redeem him as a baddie after how he was used in Spectre. He's fine here, although I'm still not entirely happy with how Blofeld was brought into the franchise. Luckily, Malek is strong enough as the bad guy that it doesn't really matter. Christoph Waltz's Blofeld is just kind of peripheral. Lee Seydoux is really excellent as Swan in this one. One of my issues with Spectre was that I never felt the connection between her and Bond was that strong, and the romance is given a lot of weight here. If any role is salvaged from the last one, it's definitely hers. She's absolutely terrific in this, and she really ranks as one of the best James Bond girls ever after this film. Lashana Lynch, of course, is also really fun as the new 007. She has really good chemistry with Bond, and rather than be antagonistic, the film goes for a mismatched buddy vibe, with them each learning to respect each other by the end. Now, anyone thinking that Craig would be sidelined at all in favor of the new agents is very wrong. The film is not overly PC. I mean, he's still James Bond, he's still coming on to every woman he meets. He's the character, they haven't changed him at all, and he's still supposed to be likable. You love James Bond in this movie, as, of course you're supposed to. Anyone thinking that Craig would be sidelined is very wrong, and the finale kind of recasts James Bond in a one-man assault on the villain. That's a kick-ass way for Craig to sign off in the part. He went all out physically in this one, and it really shows. Now, one person who's going to be getting a lot of buzz coming out of this is Ana de Armas. Now, it should be mentioned that her part is extremely brief. In fact, it's probably more of a cameo than anything, but damn if she doesn't nearly steal the entire film. She plays a newbie agent named Paloma who's working for Leiter, and boy does she ever kick ass. She's great with the action, but also incredibly likable as this bubbly, inexperienced agent who really doesn't know what she's doing at first, but winds up kind of being born for it. And if Eon ever really wanted to spin the franchise off, she's the one to do it with. And oh yes, she looks quite good in her evening wear. Of course, Daniel Craig also looks impeccably tailored throughout the entire film with some beautiful Tom Ford suits and a sweater that I really want to get. Of course, all the regulars are back with Ralph Fiennes as the new M, who Bond doesn't quite trust as much as the old one, and there's a really nifty tribute to not only Judi Dench, but also Robert Brown and Bernard Lee buried in the film. Now, is James Bond the same James Bond that we've seen in all the other movies, or are they trying to say that James Bond is kind of a name that's been passed around? They never come out and say it, but I don't know, this little nod kind of makes me wonder. But I digress. Ben Whishaw, of course, is back as the more grounded Q, and Naomi Harris is back as Moneypenny, but it's kind of a small part this time. My only real complaint with No Time to Die is that at 165 minutes, it's a hair too long. Close to 3 hours, I think, is a little too long for a James Bond movie, but then again, the pace never really lags, so it's not that big of an issue. I just think it could have maybe been a little bit tighter towards the middle. In fact, they maybe do a little too much with Christoph Waltz's Blofeld. His role could have been trimmed. After all, he's peripheral. The main baddie is Rami Malek as Safin. The action, of course, is rock solid, with the movie starting off with an amazing car chase, and there's a terrific climax in this one. As I said, probably my favorite climax of all the James Bond movies to star Daniel Craig. I think many, however, are probably going to single out the big Armas-Craig team-up sequence as the best bit of business, and certainly it's a really good set piece with some nice throwaway humor, with the two of them stopping to hit the booze a couple of times during all the fireworks. I should also mention that none other than Hans Zimmer, of course, is on board to do the music this time, and he pays tribute to John Barry quite often, particularly in his use of motifs from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's a really good James Bond score, and the theme song by Billie Eilish works beautifully in the opening credits. While we certainly waited a long time for No Time to Die, it's been worth the wait in my opinion. I'm really glad that at the end of the day they saved it for theaters, as it was clearly meant to be a theatrical experience from day one, and that for sure is the way to see it. I really enjoyed it as a James Bond fan, and it's a very fitting send-off for Daniel Craig's tenure as Bond. Once they choose a new one, boy oh boy, are they going to have some big shoes to fill. I give this one a very solid 8 on 10, and stay tuned for my James Bond Revisited episode where we'll go a little bit more into spoilers. But until then, do not read any spoilers on the internet. Stay away.
The past isn't dead.
James, fate draws us back together. Now your enemy is my enemy.
His name is Safin.
And what does he want?
Revenge. Me.
When her secret finds its way out, it'll be the death of you.
You can imagine why I've come back to play.
There's a young lady in Santiago I want you to meet.
You're late.
When you're ready. Salute.
I met your new 00. She's a disarming young woman.
I get why you shot him.
Yeah, well, everyone tries at least once.
James Bond.
We both eradicate people to make the world a better place. I just want to be a little tidier.
Come on, Bond. Where the hell are you?
Have you ever flown one of these?
Nope.
Harder to tell the good from bad, villains from heroes these days.
What is it?
You don't know what this is. He's going to kill millions.
If we don't do this, there will be nothing left to save.
Now please click and check out everything else we have on Joe Blow, news, reviews, interviews, we got it all. Thanks for listening.